Yes, we're testicling, aren't we?
Are you asking, or are you telling me I gotta do it myself?
What, testicling?
Testicling.
Yeah, you have to do it
not while
yourself.
I'm in the room.
Well, you know those. You remember that thing way back when they had these, the silver balls that go clack clack, and
They still have them.
They do. Well, that's what I always think of. I always think
made out of rocks.
Yeah, I always think if testicles did that, you'd be in pain 24/7 because it'd be like bang, oh, bang, oh.
Well, I would have meant, but why would you have 4? I mean, usually it's 4 little strings. And then
I was just thinking of 2.
4 or 5, maybe it's 5.
Was it 5? I thought it was 5.
Maybe.
4 or 5.
No. If you had 5, that's kind of odd.
In more ways than one.
Yes. That's why I went.
5 ways.
In
5 ways from Sunday.
Oh, that's right. 7 ways from Sunday. Isn't that amazing?
That was a creepy voice.
Why, thank you.
We need to create that voice more because that's funny.
Yeah. Oh, God.
See that one? You've done it so much that it doesn't even.
Yay! So it doesn't affect you anymore. Yay.
No.
I think
I'm sorry, the kitten and the cat are playing now. And it's just adorable.
Yes.
Meow. I'm distracted.
Shiny. Shiny time station.
Speaking of shiny, apparently I was shiny on the way back from the beach last week.
You were shiny. Why?
I said I was radioactive pink.
You were. It was concerning.
I just, I think we could do a whole, or I'm sure there'd be several people who could do it, but a whole bit on being ADHD, and shiny and the whole thing, because I think that's hysterical, because I've been in the
It's just
room.
ADD. I mean, ADHD is you're bouncing off the fucking walls while being distracted by everything.
Exactly. And that's why I think it'd be funny to do a bit about, because I've actually been in the room when that's going on. It's like, well, I want to sit down and read. No, let's go outside. No, and goes on and on. And I'm like, trying to keep up with it all. And then the next thing you know, we're going to make dinner. Nope, we're going swimming.
I will say, with the beach trip, I was kind of sad that we didn't do the tea bags and the ocean or whatever. But then I saw you radioactive pink, and I was like, yeah, no, we needed to leave.
I was fine
ASAP.
until I ate.
So you teabagged the ocean, did you?
We were
We were going to.
And you didn't?
No.
Everybody got really bad burns.
Oh.
Everybody. I mean, we were really smart about it. I mean, we got one of those portable tent things that you put in the backyard.
Sunscreen at least
We
once.
sunscreened every hour on the hour.
And you still got fried.
And we still got fried. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So we didn't get to the teabagging part, but.
Because we were all like, let's go.
You were like.
It wasn't the sunburn that was killing me. I got a little bit of heat exhaustion. And I'm susceptible to it since I was in the Army. And I had it twice when I was in the Army.
You know what I remember, speaking of heat exhaustion and being in the Army, like I never was, but at my father's change of command ceremony at Fort Bragg, when he left there in 1975, all the soldiers had to stand erect with their full uniforms on, and it's July 1975, and it's ungodly hot like it is in North Carolina all the fucking time. And they're sitting there going through this ceremony with my dad, and you hear, "Floop!" Somebody fell out.
Oh yeah, I did it one time. While I was doing parade practice, I did it.
I don't doubt it. I mean, was that when the uniforms were still heavy cloth?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they're very breathable, even if you're in North
Well,
Carolina.
it's like I said before, I will freely admit, you and I have talked about this several times, that the British got it right when it came to rock and roll music. Because most of my favorite bands are British.
Mine too.
But I can also state that apparently the British are better soldiers than us, because if you go to India, in the last 100 years, full dress uniform, 75 pounds worth of equipment, in the middle of fucking noon, they're still standing at attention, they beads of sweat, but they apparently have balls of fucking steel. Because there used to be a saying in India about, even the Indians thought the British were nuts.
Yeah.
And that they were looking at these guys like, these guys are monsters, because they were able to stand and take that abuse of heat and still do full training in the middle of the fucking afternoon sun, and it's fucking blistering hot out there.
Oh yeah, it's
like,
100 degrees with that amount of humidity, and it's not raining.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I mean, you could literally drink the air. It's
Yeah, you
yeah.
could. And so it was, hello, Samagarol Wall, what's your name? Yes, I'm coming immediately. You know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, these. I think it was up until the 70s that literally that. When did British occupation end in India?
The 40s?
40s. So up until the 40s, these guys would walk around. They would do full dress training and everything. While the Indians were like, screw this. We're going to go in the house and shave. We're going to take a siesta. We're going to take a nap. We're going to chill. No, these guys are walking around.
We're going to have
full
some
dress
tea.
uniform. Yeah.
We will be having some tea. We will see you later on.
Yeah. And these badass British motherfuckers that sit there and walk around like, yep, I've got a 6 foot long erection. Fuck you.
But, when we were, I remember a lot of
That
stuff.
separated the boys from the men.
I mean, I remember a lot of stuff about living there and of course the caste system and all that stuff. And
That's a very interesting religion.
I was just about to say it's fascinating.
But
the way that the caste
considering
system
that
and
if
the
you were a
religion
bad
and everything.
person, you could be reincarnated as a grasshopper.
Yeah.
Have to start all over again.
see, I'm not so familiar with that stuff. But
Well, it's basically it's karma is not the big thing about it, but the whole part of the caste system is your aspirations before you go to heaven is to reincarnate as a cow because a cow's a holy animal.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to have the joke I wanted to open up a McDonald's in fucking India. That was my running joke, and I wanted to open up a hot dog stand in Pakistan. So that was my running jokes. So once you were a cow, the next step was heaven or a priest. It's either a priest and a cow, a priest, and then it's heaven.
And then the priest and the cow thing, you don't want to go there.
Sounds like a knock-knock joke.
Yeah.
Cow and priest and a cow, then heaven.
Well,
But the thing was is that if you were
Cow,
a
priest,
bad
and heaven
person,
walk to a bar.
you ran the risk of being reincarnated as like an insect or some kind of rodent or some shit like that.
And your current isn't it also your correct me if I'm wrong, but your current financial situation in your current life is reflective of how you chose to live your previous life.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So if you're poor in your current life, it's because you were a bad person in your previous life.
Yeah.
Or if you're rich in the current life, it's because you were a good person in the previous life.
Yep. And
There's like, what, 26 steps of reincarnation?
Something.
Yeah, it's something
I unfortunately,
big like that. It's a fascinating. I guess it would be considered theology, although it's kind of a philosophy more.
It's more of a philosophy than a theology.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
what,
At least
But
to me.
what's so fascinating about it is it integrates into so many different aspects. It integrates into religion,
Right.
into contemporary thought, into the economic. I mean, like everything is just kind of integrated into it.
But the one thing that scared the shit out of me as far as the description and with my vivid imagination is that there's one entity in Hinduism with the caste system you don't want to fuck with, Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
She will fuck you up.
Well, I was exposed to it by way of things like the people that did stuff around our house. The lowest person in the caste system that I was ever exposed to was the person that would sweep the floor.
Yeah.
And my shadow was not supposed to touch hers. That's how far she was supposed to be away from me.
Oh wow!
And I was only 10, and she was so small that toward when we were there, we did not treat them like slaves, which the British would. Mm-hmm. We treated them like employees and friends, actually. And so this person that was the sweeper went from, she has to be that far away to the point where I was picking her up because I could.
Aww.
Yeah, and Mom, I remember, was crying when we left because she loved it so much. And, if you watch that IRC Deadliest Road show, that's where we live.
Hell yeah.
Above that road.
With my Jeep, you damn Skippy.
But it was a fascinating. When we were leaving, that hotel that terrorist incident happened in Mumbai. Well, that's where we left from, mm-hmm. And we were in this hotel. And if you had to ask how much it was, you couldn't afford it. Each table had their own waiter. and they had like gold paper on the plates and all this other stuff. And there was a Indian orchestra playing while you ate. And that's where I was exposed the most to Indian music, was in settings like that.
So you're eating your Indian food, jamming to a sitar?
Yep. Oh yeah, they had a sitar and a boom, and a tabla drums and the whole 9 yards. It was great. I still remember that.
Well, they do the same thing in Japan with, depending on where you go, where they play, I have no idea what the instruments are called, but it's a stringed instrument that they play at certain restaurants while you eat. I can't remember the name of it. I cannot remember the name of the instrument, but it's that harp kind of instrument that
I don't remember the name of the instrument either.
What are the escorts called?
Geishas?
Geishas would play.
Oh.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I still can't, unfortunately. Well, you want to see how the test went?
Yeah, I was just about to say, but the word I was thinking of earlier was culture. How the philosophy of the caste system was so integrated into the whole culture.
Oh, okay.
Because that was the one word I couldn't think of. Really. Thought of every other word but culture. So let's see.
Oh, God. Okay. You know,
awesome.
In my situation, it was exactly the opposite. I was taking my then 8-year-old son to see the stuff that I liked. And, you know, I was like, okay, the lasers were, you know, part of the show. And he's like, really, Dad? And then some of them were flying, like, right over his head. He's like, whoa!
Yeah, so it was the same thing. I took my son to go see the Star Wars in concert.
Yeah.
And he couldn't eat it up enough. You know, Anthony Daniels came out. What was really cool was Anthony Daniels came out. He was wearing a tux, and this was done by the Philharmonic Orchestra. And they would play scenes from all 6 films on a big, huge screen. And they would actually play music live to those scenes.
Wow.
And it was so well done, you couldn't tell. I mean, they had done it so well that they had edited it perfectly. So you literally thought that you weren't listening to a live orchestra, that they were just playing clips with the music already embedded. He comes out with the tux and everything, and then he was talking about the music that they played where Han Solo was flying the Millennium Falcon to the asteroid field in Empire. And he says he actually he undid his top, and he had a gold vest on, and brought his arms up like C-3PO and quoted the 25 million to 1 quote. So it was really great. My son got pictures with clone troopers and stormtroopers. There was Darth Maul flying around. There was a Darth Vader walking around. There was a Boba Fett walking around. So it was really cool. He was really excited about it, and he would not stop talking about it for like 2 weeks. It was nonstop. I got to see Star Wars and this and this. And he got his little lightsaber chain pin and everything. And I bought the lithograph. Those are the 2 tickets that we got, 2 the bookmarks for the promotion, and I got the tour book. I spent like $70 on all those things. Wow. So I was able to put them in frames so everybody's like, what's that? I was like, this is a little conversational piece, kind of like my divorce. It's framed up really long. So I'm like, God, I took my son to this because they didn't have
this was better.
They didn't have this when I was a kid. If they had had that, I'd have gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not really big into classically made music. I like Beethoven and stuff like that, but at that age, I wouldn't, I wasn't into that kind of music. But I would have gone. I mean, it was really cool. But it's kind of like where it's really cool to see parents take an active interest in what their kids are listening to or watching. It's great for that Sam's liking the new Star Wars when I grew up on the original Star Wars, and that he's like, hey, he literally knows Ben Kenobi's character, Skywalker's character, Yoda's character. He literally knows the clones. There's certain clones have names. And just by looking at them, by the conversation, he's watched the cartoon so much, he knows who's talking. So it's really cool. So he's like really into that sort of thing. He hasn't made the connection yet that Anakin Skywalker is also Darth Vader. He has not made that connection yet. Yeah, when he does, I'm going to see that face just crestfallen. I told you! He was a bad motherfucker. Yeah. So it's really fun to see that, and then he actually started getting into the Indiana Jones films. So he's actually starting to broaden his interest in other things. Yeah. He likes a lot of sci-fi. He likes a lot. Like I said, we were on the way to school the other day, and he asked me to play Great White's cover of Somebody to Love that was originally done by Jefferson Airplane 4 times. and apparently knew the words. And I'm like, I don't recall playing Great White with you in the car all that often.
He's going to be a long-haired 60s freak.
Probably.
Yeah.
Speaking of long-haired 60s freak, let's see, what else is going on?
I don't know. She's photographing your cats. Oh, is that what they call it now?
He's the new one.
The new ones. She hasn't seen them.
Well, no, I take pictures and
Yeah.
just in case you don't have them for the site,
Yeah.
and because I get to annoy his cats.
Yes.
His little foster kitty.
So what do you think of the final flight?
Oh,
Kitten.
well, I have a love-hate relationship with that program. We've learned a lot from it, yes. That's the only way you could have transported the cargo some of the cargo. Like, for instance, that vehicle is the only one with the capacity to have taken parts up like that and put that station together. The only other way to do it would have been a Saturn V type rocket that you put the piece you want to send, you send it up there, and then you send another crew up there to help put it together. So, yes, there are things that it was worthwhile for, but 30 years? Really? And we've sat there and gone round and around and around the Earth, and NASA is supposed to be about exploring, and there was no exploring going on. It was just construction. They could have had guys in hard hats up there, basically. And I know that sounds like you're dishonoring the memory of those that have passed away while flying it. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you that, I think what they're doing now with getting private industry to service the Earth orbit end of things is good, so that NASA can do what it's supposed to do, which is go, further out into the universe than they are. That's what they need to be concentrating on. And I think if they let private industry ferry people back and forth to that, even if it's like regular citizens and they want to start charging for flights like that, like Virgin Galactic is going to do and that kind of thing, I think, that's fine. Let them do that and let NASA go beyond Earth orbit, go back out where they belong. So anyway, that's my piece then.
Yeah, but see, I remember when the Challenger exploded.
Oh, I do too. Vividly. I mean, I was sitting there because I've watched these things long enough and I've seen, 2 of the flights go to the moon from 3 miles away. So I don't need to be told in the countdown this is going on and this and this. And by then, 24 had flown, and so I'm sitting there watching the NASA channel so that there's no audio other than the NASA audio. And I had to look twice at the screen.
Yeah.
And because I couldn't possibly fathom anything like that happening, and it did. And then right after that, I had to go pick my son up from preschool.
Yes.
And I get to the door of his classroom, and his teacher is going, well, pretty shortly, Krista will be doing this, and oh, isn't it wonderful, kids, and blah, blah, blah. And I went, and she comes to the door, and I was still shaking from having watched it, and I grew up watching people fly into space, and and she looks at me, and I said, the Challenger has exploded, and they're all dead. And she got white as a sheet, turned around, and walked back into the classroom to tell the kids. Luckily, they weren't watching it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was watching it in my school.
You were? Yeah. How old were you then?
It was 3rd grade.
Wow. You were like 9.
Yeah. It was like 8 or 9, yeah.
What was that like?
A lot of people were watching. Because we were watching it with several classes in the auditorium.
Yeah.
And there was probably about a handful of teachers there, and everybody. It was a collective silence when they realized what had happened, and nobody could pick their mouth up off the floor fast enough to change the channel.
Jeez.
And so after that, we had to go pick up my dad. He was still out processing from the military at the time, and Mom picked up a newspaper and handed it to my father, and all he could say was, wow.
And thinking about that, when Columbia broke up over Texas, my childhood friend lives in Dallas, and people there could see it over their heads.
Oh yeah.
But when what I was doing then was I think I was either off work or I wasn't working then, but I was taking who to work, better half, and I vividly remember this was a Saturday, and I believe it was a Saturday, and I'm taking her to work, and the station that I was working for was oldies back then, and the DJ at the time comes on the radio to say that they lost contact with Columbia, and that that was the news story. And I looked at her in the seat next to me, and I said, "They're dead." And she said, "What do you mean, Fred?" And I said, "No, they never. They plan on losing contact at certain points. This is not planned. These people are dead." And I knew it. As soon as they said that, and that they were waiting to hear from them, and yada yada yada, I knew it. I was like, "Yep, they're dead." And then it was trying to figure out what, and then of course, as soon as that became evident, then I thought, oh, the foam strike apparently is what did them in, and that's what they ended up finding.
Yeah.
And the one that they refused, the Defense Department said, "Look, we can, with equipment we have, we can take pictures of the underside of the orbiter if you'd let us do it." And they said, "Nah, don't bother." I mean, there's nothing those people could have done about it anyway.
Right.
But, I mean, they could have, I suppose, kept them up there long enough to have somebody rescue them, kept them up there for enough time, and hopefully they would have had enough oxygen and blah, blah, blah. But, I remember all that stuff. But I'm glad that they're now going to concentrate on going out instead of just around and around and around.
Right.
Because that's really what they're chartered to do. They're not chartered to fix Toyota's brakes or, they're just not. I mean, that's nice of them to do. And actually, one of the last man actually to set foot on the moon, Harrison Schmitt, that was also a congressman, I think, from New Mexico for a little while, he said they should completely do away with NASA and start a new government agency with none of the people that are currently in NASA, and their age has to be like 35 or under. And he said that because he said those people aren't in the bureaucracy that is now NASA. They don't think that way, and they don't know how to fail, like the engineers in the 60s that took us to the moon. Same kind of deal.
Okay.
And because those people, they didn't know what failure was. They didn't know, that they had no concept of death in space and that kind of thing. And, in 9 years, they took us from, Alan Shepard did this nice little suborbital hop all the way to, people walking on the moon in 9 years.
Yeah.
And if we can do that in the 60s, we can do it faster now, if we want to.
They still have to figure out how to trim off $4 trillion.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can go up with the Chinese. I mean, after all, we're using their money.
I get back into that conversation with blah blah blah, going up there with the Chinese.
Yeah. Well, they'd have some good food. Anyway. By the way, I can see some of
by the kitten.
I can see some of the pictures you're taking, and they look terrific.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, that's awesome.
He's so cute because every now and then he'll try and play with the camera.
Yeah.
He'll do the little thing where they all crouched and they shake their little butt.
Yes.
Like they're about to pounce on it.
Yeah.
But then he gets afraid of it because it makes noise and there's light.
Yeah.
So you probably have me giggling a little bit in the background.
Oh no, I think it's wonderful.
But I'm not giggling at whatever you were talking about, because I think you were talking about serious
Sure,
stuff.
nice save.
I was.
Oh, I see how it is.
I was.
Oh, wise guy, huh?
Yeah. Wise guy, huh?
Have you been working on your Marge having an escort?
Ah, no, you were not.
Oh yeah.
I need more tea. Do you need more tea?
No, I'm good.
More tea? More tea? Tea?
Now, we need Homer. We need somebody that can do the voice of Homer, because then it would be, what, Homer? Oh, I'm looking through ads on this website. I think I want to be an escort. Yeah, and we could pay the house payment that way, Homer. And I'll charge him extra to finishing my hair.
Oh my god! What the fuck? Fred Zeppelin scarring people one voice at a time.
That's right. That's right. Get back to your booties, boy.
Your what?
I think he's talking about booties again. Booties for breakfast. You are wearing the Sloppy Joe shirt today.
I am.
Ay.
And the back has Sloppy Rita, a full life.
If I'm gonna know that brought up a joke, I can't tell.
There's a joke there.
There it is, but it's.
Well, what is the thing that you sent us that made you were like, I must be a hot person? What was the last thing you sent us? Something like it's bad, but I snickered. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, it was some headline that had grease in it.
Yep.
Like you can't hold back the laughing, can
Something
you?
about Greek, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
And it was like a serious article, and you were just like,
During the week, I have about an hour.
oh
You what?
no.
What?
You don't know. You don't want to know. Just keep going. Keep rolling.
Alrighty then. Well, shall we call it a day?
I think with that last comment, we should.